we can use our graphing calculator to help us find the points that we need to plot on our graph and find the solution to this system of equations. We start by pressing the y equals button, and we type in our first equation, negative x plus 250. Then we go down to enter in our second equation. Now, because it has a fraction, we can enter this in two different ways. The first way is by putting our fraction in parentheses, negative 1 divided by 2, and closing the parentheses. Then we can continue on with the rest of our equation, x plus 150. Another way we can enter this equation with a fraction into our calculator is by actually opening up a fraction bar. There are different ways to do this, but I press alpha, the green button, then the y equals button, and then enter. And you see it will open up a fraction bar. And I type in my fraction, negative 1 on the top, then I go down and type in 2, and then I have to remember to go over to jump out of the fraction. Now I can continue to type in the rest of my equation, x plus 150. Now that our equations are in our calculator, we can look at the graph, but I don't really see anything. Why is that? Why can't we see our graph from this screen? Well, let's look at our numbers. We have really large numbers, 150, 250 for our initial values or our y-intercepts. But this graph that we see only goes up to 10. 10 on the top, 10 on the bottom, 10 to the left, and 10 to the right. We can change the window on our calculator so that we can see more points. If you look at the graph for this example, the x-axis starts at 0, goes all the way up to 200, and it looks like each line on this grid is 10, right? 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. Same thing for the y. So we can take just a few seconds to change the window on our calculator so we can actually see our graph. So we're going to do that by pressing the window key up at the top. The minimum value for our x-axis is 0. The maximum value for our x-axis, according to this graph on our slide, is 200. And the scale, what each line on the graph is 10. We can do the same thing for the y-axis. Our minimum value on the y-axis is 0. The maximum value on the y-axis is 200. And the scale is going up by 10. Now, when we press the graph button, look at that. We can see where our lines intersect. After taking some time to graph both of these equations, here's what we have. Now, just as a strategy, because these are such large numbers, when I was scrolling through the graph on my calculator, I tried to focus on finding the x coordinates that are actually listed on this graph. So instead of writing my table as 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, okay, because then that would take a really long time to get all the way up to 200, I focused my x and y table on finding 0, the point at 0, the point at 50, the point at 100, 150, and 200, so that I was able to quickly graph these two equations. And these are the tables we came up with, and after graphing them, this is what we got. Now, remember, we are trying to find the point where these two lines intersect, or the point where they cross. Do you see that on your graph? I do. It's all the way over here, the very edge of the graph. That is our solution point. We can find the coordinates of that solution by using the grid on our graph. The x value is 200 and the y value is 50. We can find the coordinate for that point by looking at our tables. I can see that the point 200, 50 is on both tables. And the third way that we can find the solution to this system of equations is by using our calculator. So remember, we already have our two equations written in y equals mx plus b form. We are going to press second and then the trace button to bring us to our calculate menu. From here, we're going to choose number 5 to find the intersection point. Now, you will see this, where is it? You can hear me clicking. You will see this little marker show up on your first curve or your first line. Because our numbers are so large for this, we really want to make sure that we're isolating or zoning into that solution point. So we are going to use the arrows to kind of zoom this little marker all the way into that intersection point that's on the edge of our graph. And we're going to click enter. Now the marker moves over to our second curve or our second line, the red line. And it's already there on that point, so we're going to click enter again. Do we want our calculator to guess the exact point? Yes, we do, so we hit enter again. And there it is, your point of intersection. The x value is 200 and the y value is 50.